Welcome back to Worldwide Giant Growers Video 6. We're going to talk today on positioning the fruit. I wanted to talk clearly about two of the most important things I think you need to do this time of year, and that is stump covers. And stump covers is the first one we're going to talk about. I have one right here that I made out of PVC, and I put a clear plastic top on it. You see it's got legs and it's adjustable, and what we're doing here is we're keeping the stump dry. You don't want these heavy rains. You don't want to water your stump. When you're watering, don't get your stump wet. Keep your stump dry. Also, I have also used the legs of the stump to push the drip tape over. I like to keep the drip tape at least 12 inches away from the stump because it creates a 12-foot wet circle, and I don't want the stump constantly wet. So that's your big thing. A poor man's version of the stump cover would be, you could steal your little kid's little tykes coffee table, the little pink tables that they have for the little tykes. It seats like 4 kids at it, 4 3-year-olds. You could take one of those tables and place it over the stump. They're perfect for a stump cover. You don't have time to build one. But that's a must, or you'll end up with a foaming stump. Foaming stumps are a nightmare. You don't want to go there. That has to do with overwatering and having a wet stump. And the other thing I want to talk to you about is squash vine borer protection. If you live in an area where there's squash vine borers, it's critical that you spray to keep them off your plants, or use the Merit. If you don't do that, you're going to end up having the squash vine borers and take your plant out. By the 1st of August, you'll be done. So that's critical. The other thing I want to talk to you today about is applying the root mass expanders, the Piranha, the Voodoo Juice, and the Tarantula. What I like to do is mix them in here, although this is one way of doing it. The other way to do it, the way I actually did, is I ran it through my drip tape. But some people tell me they don't have drip tape irrigation. I just recently ran, the other day I ran like 1.5 gallons of Voodoo Juice through all these plants. They each got like 1/2 liter of Voodoo Juice, each plant, through the drip tape. But if you don't have that, you can run it this way. Put your Piranha, your Tarantula, and your Voodoo Juice in here, pump it up, and what you can do is you can spray. We'll go right down over here, Mike. We can spray, this will spray it directly to the node. I can spray it directly to the leaf node and let it soak till it soaks in. And what this is great to do is if you're growing the watermelons, for you watermelon growers, this is great to spray down the vines. I've been doing that, mixing the Piranha and Tarantula and spraying down my vines. It will encourage them to root into the soil. If you're using a weed barrier and sand, they'll root into the soil faster by having the root mass expanders sprayed on the vines. And the Voodoo Juice is going to help keep them healthier as a biological fungicide. So that's one way of doing it. This sprayer, you don't have to go traipsing through there. Bury your vines, inoculate them later. All right. Throughout this video, I'm going to stop at some of the other plants. I'm just going to have a little couple-minute blip at each pumpkin, the tomatoes, the watermelons, and take you through the different fruits because they've all been pollinated. I don't know where Bubba disappeared to, but he's off somewhere. Either he said something about celebrating the 4th with the 5th, and he staggered off, so we'll catch up with him later. Thank you very much. How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Good job, Bubba Presley here. Thank you very much. I started my Long Gourds late this year on purpose. Today's July 6th, and here's the 114 Clements from last year. Here's the 137.5 Ansem. That was a world record, I think, for a second, and then he grew a 139. I started them late for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't want them shading my 1478 Clements early on. And 2, I figured I only need a Long Gourd one set. These will produce 2 sets a season. They take 40 days once they fruit up to establish, to mature the fruit out. And so what I'm going to do here is I planted these Long Gourds farther out from the trellis. As you can see, they're a couple feet out. And what I'll do is let it grow along the ground, and we'll bury the node so it roots in. So it'll have a bigger root system because it's growing along the ground and getting a few more roots at each node, just like the pumpkin plants. before it climbs the trellis. And I will heavily feed these with the piranha and tarantula and voodoo juice and get the biggest root system as possible. Big roots, big fruits. And here is the 1530 Gayweiler plant. This one's being grown outside the Kin Cave 1. This is where I grew the melon sisters last year. We did a little bit of a rotation, even though they're both vine crops. It's still somewhat of a rotation. But here's the 1530 Gayweiler. It looks like it's going to be a real nice shaped fruit. I'm liking the shape. This morning I just took the sheet off, get a little morning sun. I thought it wouldn't hurt it. Maybe it might speed it up. Seems like they're growing kind of slow to me this year, but maybe it's just me. Alright, and here's the 1478 Clements Jackson Reed that I grew in 2012. Actually, my personal best came from this fruit, 1478 Clements. This is the first time I've grown it. Anyways, there she is, a nice round pumpkin that was crossed with the 1734, the 1723 Marshall was crossed with the 1478 Clements. So there we go. This is next to the Kin Cave 2 by the Long Gourd trellis. So we'll see. All this area out here isn't filled in yet. This will be all filled in with plant before it's over. And right there's my squash. I got my squash. I planted them late. My squash turned out to be a pumpkin plant, not a squash, so I had to replant. And there they are right there in that crate. I got the crate over it. Again, woodchuck rabbit protection. They don't take out my seedling. And that bird cage is another squash plant. Back up there by that big orange pot is my 2 field pumpkins. This is our first trip to the tomato patch this year on video. I'd like to show you here is my tomato plants. I've got them planted along the sunflower berm from last year. But right here we have the 5.35 Lions, and I'll show you. This is a nice blossom. It's actually a tomato now, not a blossom. These were pollinated on about June 26th, but that's a real nice tomato there. It's like a double. You can see the double there, and up on top you can see the stems, the size of the stem. That's what we call it. Came from a mega blossom, probably a double. And then here's the plant. We're going to just let the one trunk grow up. The one branch here is going to grow up and feed these, and I'll prune off all the suckers as it goes. We're going to feed these Sensi-Bloom. I'm going to trickle feed them Sensi-Bloom that has 3% calcium, and it has the nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus I think it needs to feed these plants. I had spoke with Marvin Meisner, who wrote the How to Grow Giant Tomato book, and he agreed that he thought the Sensi-Bloom was the perfect NPK for tomatoes. So here we go. Here's my 6.01 Bujo from France. I met Fabrice in Orlando, him and his wife, last winter in Orlando at the awards banquet. Very nice people. But look at that honey. Looks like a caterpillar. Don't worry if your tomatoes aren't that big yet. There's always time. You can catch up. So anyways, we're gonna keep growing these, pushing these, gently pushing these. You don't want to overdo it, cause any aborts. Hopefully this makes it all the way. There's no guarantees. I'm gonna keep them healthy, and I got the straw down so dirt doesn't splash. There's no branches touching the ground. I am gonna leave this second branch growing on this plant until it gets more established, and then I'm only gonna let the branch grow upward that the tomato is on. Raised watermelon bed. I took the old sidewalls from the old melon cave from 2011. It was getting old, and I took that out of commission, used these sidewalls to build up this corner of the garden. This corner of the garden's never been used before. In fact, there was some bushes and stuff in here I cut out of here. Brought in some dirt, mixed some clay with the nice compost I bought from Tut Hill Farms in South Lyon, and here we go. I have a big, nice plant. This is a 260 Clements in the front here. Nice long plant, but I had one watermelon about 10 days ago. I pollinated, didn't make it. It aborted. So today, on this plant, I happen to be blessed with a watermelon at each end of this plant. This plant's got to be 25 feet long. And here's, show you the pollination. This is on a big backup finger vine coming off the plant. And I picked a 291 Kent male flower, peeled the petals back. And here's the watermelon. I should probably get the other side. Here's the watermelon. You can see when it opens up, it's not a real big melon, like some of you southern guys get, but it's a melon nonetheless. And we take the male pollinator, pollinate the flower. Usually, I know it's a temperature thing. These things are open. It's warm this morning. It was like almost 70 this morning when we woke up, 60 in the high 60s. And these flowers opened early. Sometimes they don't open till 10 o'clock here in Michigan. But anyways, I always leave the male flower laying on top when I walk away. That way if it's still producing pollen, it'll just fall. Maybe the wind will work with me. But here's my watermelon plant. So that's the pollination of the 291 Kent to the 260 Clements. That ought to be a great cross. Here's more of the plant. And then over here, you're looking at the 291 Kent. It's growing out there. It also has a watermelon. I wasn't getting watermelons. What I started to do, started taking foliar sprays. I took Overdrive and a little bit of Sensi-Bloom, and I mixed them in kind of a weak solution, about 50% strength. On the Sensi-Bloom, it was like a 25% strength. And on the Overdrive, about a 50% strength. And it's, the manufacturer doesn't recommend using those for foliar sprays, but Chris Kent and I decided that there shouldn't be nothing wrong with it. And I sprayed the leaves for a couple of days, and all of a sudden, watermelons are appearing. I think the extra phosphorus and potash did the trick. Look, right here's a 291 Kent. Here's a little melon forming. 3 days ago, I had no melons. So, not that we're big enough to see. They might have been down inside a little bud where you couldn't even see them. But this is the 291 Kent. These are traditional plants. They're not silicone sisters. Not that there's anything wrong with being a silicone sister. I'm just saying these are traditional. Alright, so here we go. This should all be filled in a couple weeks. Here we are in Kin Cave 2. This is the 1067 Kent plant. And here's the fruit. This is Dolly's Double D Revenge. We are going to try to beat our 1,326 pound Dolly last year. We were hoping for better numbers last year, but the weather was crazy and other factors involved. But look at this beauty. She's a beauty. I think it's a lot taller than Dolly. As you can tell, it's got that same long shape. And I'm hoping she'll stay tall like that. This could be a nice barrel-shaped pumpkin. As you can see here, I'm going to get ready to cull. This is my backup pumpkin. I'm going to cut that off today. And I also have the main vine buried, and we have this worked around to the same pitchfork pattern as we're doing in the Kin Cave one. And here's the other end of the 1067 Kent plant. This is the Pat Bow Wallace plant, the 2009 Wallace. This is the seed I showed you in the video 2. We transplanted it, and it kind of was a small plant and hadn't quite filled its pot yet. Came a little loose. But this plant's still alright. It's got a little bit of scorch on it, but she's doing better now. We've cooled down, got rid of some of that heat. The heat's not my friend. But here it is. Here's this is going to be Pat Bow. We keep the sheet on it to keep the sun. You don't want the sun baking your fruit. And that's a nice shaped pumpkin. Look at that, with the perfect setup here. We have the stem, nice straight stem. I've got it propped up so it can't bend that stem downward. You want to keep her going. Now, she's doing a little bit of a wheelie here. As it grows, I'll probably tip the pumpkin down just slightly. I don't want her doing such a wheelie that I got this vine 4 feet in the air. Well, that'd be cool. That'd be a cool problem. But anyways, she's nice. You can see in here, here's all the stalks. These are all the stalks reaching for the sky. They're under this screen. This screen takes away 20% of that harsh sun. But I have opened this one up because it was too hot in here. The gable end is open. There's my scarecrow. The sides are open a little. I'll be turning that fan on here in a few minutes. It's about time to turn it on. But anyways, there you go, Pat Bo Wallace. Grow 'em big, baby, grow 'em big. This here is the 1317 Clements, tiny. We are down to the point where I have actually terminated the main vine. You notice I'm walking on this plank, I'm still staying off my soil. I've buried this main vine, got it buried, and I'm letting the side runners are going to continue the secondaries, and actually these here are tertiaries. These tertiary vines are growing off the secondary, and it's called a pitchfork plant. It's actually going to pitchfork off, so this way the bulk of the plant is going to be behind the fruit. And the same thing over here, all these you see growing off of there, those are tertiaries coming off the secondary. They're going to grow out a pitchfork design plant. And that's going to be that way, if you understand it correctly, all the plant is behind the fruit, feeding the fruit, not plant after the fruit. Because there's a theory that may be a better way to go. I like trying different ideas, theories. Here's Tiny. She was pollinated on the 21st of June, I believe. So here we go. She's just now starting to take off real well. I haven't measured it, not how big it is, but if you see, we have the blocks. I've got the blocks to keep the vine supported up. The vine has to be kept up, or if you don't keep this supported upward, what's going to happen is the stem will bend downward and you're going to have problems. You want to keep that stem as level as possible. As this grows, I'm going to raise the main vine upward. I'm going to keep raising it. The blocks will get bigger. I may have to sever a root or two along the way to bring it up higher and higher. And another thing I'll do, like right now, it's warm, it's in the heat of the day. You don't want to do this in the morning. We're probably close to 80 degrees out. This is nice and warm. I'm going to reposition this pumpkin. I'm going to move her a little bit to the right. Okay, just a little bit. You don't want to overdo it. And pack the sand under it. And what I'm doing is getting that pumpkin, while it's big enough to handle, small enough to handle, getting it so it's 90 degrees from that vine, because as this grows out, I don't want it growing on top of the vine. I want to have lots of clearance. So you move it just a little each day, very little. And then at night, I also keep the sheet on there to keep it warm. Keep the fruit warm. You don't want it, just keep them covered. The less you handle it, the better off you are. All right. I think we covered pretty much everything there. Let's go to our contest. We're going to have a new contest. Not only are we going to draw a name every video from a member, one of the 143 members, to win a product, we're also going to have a second raffle. Whoever shares the video and sends me an email telling me they shared it on their other social networks, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you like, every time you share it on another network, you'll have an entry into a second raffle. I announced this a few days ago. Last week I announced it, and the winner this time is Steve Miner. Steve Miner won a B52 for sharing video 5. We'll do this again in the next video. Like the video, share the video, you're entered into a second raffle. So for now, what we're going to do is we're going to get the book. We're going to get Bubba's book out, and my wife Sherry's going to pick a number. I tried to get a number ball. Tried to buy one on eBay. I got outbid. Number ball cage. So I'm still working on getting a number ball cage. But in the meantime, Sherry, pick a number 1 to 143.
107.
107. All right. This is, I don't like the random number generators. I'd rather have a person do it. 107. Alan Gibson from Ohio Valley, Giant Pumpkin Growers. Alan actually runs that club. All right, Alan's a great guy. Alan, you just won a liter of B52. All right. Thank you very much. And what else do we have to do here, Mike? I think that pretty much, we're winding down at the end of the day. I guess it's time to say goodbye to everybody. Remember, keep it a secret, but go tell a friend. Hey, where'd Bubba go?
We drifted apart, the memories stray.
the summer day when I kissed you.
Yeah, it's a world record, a grill world record.
Through the chairs
3,025 pounds.
parlor
Yeah.
seem empty and bare.